This week, I set myself a challenge to go to the supermarket and pick up all of the ingredients I would need to make a bourbon. And I have to say, guys, it's really not bad. And with some more time, it's only going to get better. How's it going, chasers? I hope you're having a kick-ass week. I'm Jesse, and this is Still It. This is a bourbon I made entirely, well, almost, I had to cheat slightly, from supermarket ingredients. And team, that is legitimately pretty damn decent. It's only been on oak for 5 days, but man, I'm telling you, if you give this 6 months or something, it's not gonna be half bad at all. Obviously, I've already made this, and I'm not gonna give you tasting notes because that would just give things away. We don't want any spoilers just yet. So what we need to do is go back in time to the point where I knew that I needed to make this, but I had no idea how to do it. I was in the car on the way to the supermarket. So obviously this is not the kind of video that I can complete standing in the shed. So I'm gonna go hit the local supermarket, see what we can find. To be honest, I haven't really planned this. So we're, we're shooting from the hip on this one, guys. Let's go see what we can work out. All right, team, obviously the number one thing we need is corn. We need 51% corn, right? Because we're doing this so properly. But this is the one thing I've actually planned. I need to find the breakfast cereal aisle. All right, we're in the right spot. We need... Bam, this is what we're after. Now, obviously this is not pure corn. There's gonna be something extra in it. Let's have a look. Yeah. But let's face it, we're going to be slumming this, and it isn't going to be pure ingredients, I don't think. So honestly, I'm just going to have a quick look through these ingredients, find the bag that has the most amount of corn for the least amount of money, with the least amount of crap. Plunk! There we go. That is 4 kilograms of corn. Now, we need to find some wheat and some rye. Bread! Why didn't I think of this before? It's all wheat, and there's obviously a thing called rye bread. Unfortunately, it's not very popular here in New Zealand, and this is literally the only option I have in the entire supermarket, by the look of it. So I guess we use a loaf of that and see what else we can find. After walking around looking for cooked wheat for about 20 minutes, the cornflakes are right there. This is where I was at the very beginning. I've just realised... With all of the ingredients ready and purchased, it's time to head back to the shed where I have 30 litres of water in a dirty great big pot heated and ready at 76 degrees Celsius. Now I'm using what is essentially a giant pot-shaped sieve inside my pot to keep all of the goopy stuff off the electric elements to make sure nothing burns. So with that in place, I can start adding all of the ingredients we talked about and bought at the supermarket into the water. Seeing as I could actually touch it and see it and smell it and taste it in person, I changed the plan slightly from what I made at the supermarket, and I ended up with 4 kilograms of cornflakes, 1.5 kilograms of wheatbix, and 1 loaf of rye bread. Once you've got all of your ingredients into the water, if you have spare room in the pot, I'd suggest topping it up a little bit because it is going to be very thick at this point in time. Okay, it is time to do 3 things. Number 1, make my wife's year. Number 2, solidify my position as a grumpy ass Scrooge. And number 3, thank today's sponsor, Manscaped. Here's the deal. My wife has always wanted to decorate my beard. And what have I always told you?
No.
Hell no. But thanks to Manscaped, it's going to go down like this. I am going to attempt to do this ad read, and you get to decorate my beard until I'm done. She's collecting things. I don't like this. Are you ready? Oh my god, there's a horse in my hair. Manscaped offer a range of kick-ass men's grooming products. You can get the full experience with the Performance Package... The Performance Package 4.0. Was that glitter? Holy sh... All the perfect tools for your family jewels. This is the Lawnmower 4.0 and it is the star of the show. As you can see, it has a little LED light for trimming in all situations. It's waterproof. Ow. Ow. and has ceramic blades to keep your skin safe and cut down on nicks and scratches. This is the weed whacker for trimming your nose and ears. I don't have the ear problem, but I definitely need it for the noses. And honestly guys, this sort of thing, you have no idea how much you need it until you have one. So if you have a special dude in your life, or you just need it for yourself, go to manscaped.com today and get 20% off and free international shipping when you use the code What did you just put in my ear? There's a candy cane in my ear. Sorry, the code is still it. Your jingle balls will thank me later. Excuse me, I need to cut my beard off. That grew back quick. Anyway, back to the supermarket bourbon. At this point in time, I cheated a little bit. There's one ingredient that I could not figure out how to get from the supermarket, and that is enzymes. I even jumped on Google and searched 3 or 4 other supermarkets in the nearby area for possible answers. If you want to stick to the supermarket theme 100%, I'm going to put a link in the description down below to Bearded and Board's video where he took supermarket barley and malted it and then used that to brew with. You could totally use that technique and use that malt for enzymes. I didn't have time, so I didn't do it because I'm a cop-out and a cheat. What I did is use some packaged alpha amylase enzymes that work between 60 and 75 degrees Celsius. You can probably pick this up at damn near any brewing store. They're easy to find. So sprinkle the prescribed dosage of enzymes into the pot and you will notice it damn near instantly thin out. Check again that the temperature is between 60 and 75 degrees Celsius, assuming you're using the same temperature range enzymes as me. Cover it and insulate it. Note that the cheeky assistant is optional. After 1 hour, pop the top, give it a good stir, and it is time to add in some Gluco amylase. Now this stuff you actually can get from the supermarket, especially if you're in America. You can find a little thing called beano and use that. Unfortunately here in New Zealand, we don't really have the stuff, so I had to use this. This is going to make sure that the yeast actually is able to eat everything. Pop it on in, cover it up, and let it sit for another 2 hours. Now it's time to separate the chunky stuff from the liquid. For me, that's pretty easy. I just hoist up that giant sieve pot thing I was talking about earlier on, let it sit for 2 hours. But this stuff is super freaking goopy. So I basically had to work it through after 2 hours, almost like working gravy through a sieve. This leaves me with 20 litres at 1.061 gravity, which can go straight on into the fermenter, at which point I realised that I didn't buy any yeast. Luckily, I have what I am convinced is the best foursquare on the face of the planet just down the road from me, so I can shoot down there. And even better, these guys generally carry 500 gram blocks of Angel Baker's yeast, which is my favorite baker's yeast to use for distilling. Honestly guys, there are thousands of different baker's yeasts out there. Yes, some of them are better for distilling than others. If you're going to go full on, just do this from the supermarket, get what you can get at your supermarket. Check that your wash is definitely under 30 degrees Celsius. I like to ferment it at 25 degrees Celsius. Pitch the yeast, I used 50 grams, into the fermenter, seal it up, and forget about it for at least 7 days. When fermentation is totally finished and everything starts settling out towards the bottom, it's time for distillation. To distill this, I'm going to use a single distillation, but utilize 2 bubble plates. So this is kind of akin to somewhere between 2 and 3 times distillation, if you're talking about, standard pot stills. I collected 85 mils of 4 shots, ditched those, and then collected 1.2 liters of heads, put those into the faints bucket, and collected hearts all the way down until I thought I was hitting tails. Quick note here, guys, is that a very intense cornflake, wheatbix, and a slight bit of bread note came out just before the tails. So just be careful to catch that and keep it in the heads, and ditch the tails before you get to the full-on wet dog. The hearts were proofed down to 60% ABV, put into a glass jar, and I added 1 charred oak spiral. Generally, I don't use oak spirals, but we are lucky enough to be able to pick them up here at supermarkets and bulk food stores sometimes.
Alternatively, depending on where you are, you may be able to pick up ex-bourbon barrels for smoking.
So I finished that process a couple of days ago. It's been sitting for a couple of days, and obviously there is a buttload of wood in it. So it is, it is getting, you know, quite dark, quite quick. Remember guys, it's always going to look darker, you know, in a large volume like that. So yes, it is dark, but it's not crazy dark yet. I am going to, in fact, I'm going to do it right now. Oh man, how am I going to do this? Oh, you son of a... I'm going to take half of this oak out because I knew that I was putting heaps in there, but to be fair, I wanted to kind of crank in some flavor ASAP. Obviously, this is oak flavor, it's not age, and now I'm going to take out most of that oak so it can actually start to age a little bit longer without, you know, over oaking and getting bitter and tannic and all that sort of jazz. But that's really good. Honestly, it's almost disappointing. So often you put so much time and effort into these kinds of things, doing them the right way. And yeah, to be honest, normally the right way does end up better than this, but I don't know, man, this is getting you like 75% of the way there. To be fair, the biggest, boldest flavors right now are the oak. That's fine in this kind of thing. I like it to be big, bold, and oaky anyway. But here's the thing, guys, is that the actual ingredients are almost holding their own. It tastes like a heavily oaked bourbon with a hint of cornflake and wheatbix. The rye is disappearing into the mix a little bit. I'm not quite sure where to pick it up. But to be honest, with a bourbon like this, that's kind of how that's going to happen. It's not a high rye bourbon. I'm not expecting to get a huge amount of rye flavor, you know, thumping me over the head. The cornflakes and the wheatbix are the interesting thing. So as it came off the still, especially right down deep into the tails, the cornflakes and the wheatbix came off very, very strong. And I was slightly worried because it smelt and tasted like cornflakes or wheatbix, or actually a mix of both, which makes it even worse, that have sat in the bowl so long that the milk has disappeared and it's just turned into one solid, like amorphous blob of old nasty cereal. That smell, like when you scoop it into the rubbish bin or out for the birds or whatever, that was the smell that was coming off. But now that it's got some wood sugar cranked in there with it, and that deep, dark, bold, you know, high char bourbon barrel flavor coming through as well, that's almost like dark berries in some ways. You put that back with the grain and it turns back into fresh cornflakes and wheatbix. I don't know, maybe it's not the wood, maybe it's just it's had some time to chill and meld with the other flavors that came off the still at the different times. But I can 100% smell fresh cornflakes and fresh wheatbix in there, which is cool, and it strangely doesn't seem out of place. I need to say a huge thank you to the Patreons. Thank you so much, Patreons. Your ongoing support is what gives me the ability, I was going to say the courage, but that's ridiculous, to do silly ass things like this and just give it a nudge, see if people are interested in it. If it doesn't work out, it's not a problem. They keep moving on. So thank you guys, I really appreciate it. So what I was going to say before is that yes, cornflakes and wheatbix really do taste different to the corn and wheat that you would normally smell in a bourbon. It's adjacent to it, it's similar to it, but it is literally cornflakes. That's so weird. I thought I was just going to cram oak into it, kind of get a result, be able to tell you what it tasted like, and say, this is all going into Faint's bucket. But no, it's done a really good job. I'm not sure if I've ever seen anyone do cornflakes, wheatbix, and bread before, but I know there's people out there that make, you know, bourbon from cornflakes and stuff like that. So I guess I shouldn't have been so prejudiced against this experiment before running it. So there you go, lesson learned. If you've enjoyed this video, guys, I would really appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. That helps me out so much. It really does. And it's free for you. You know what else is free? Hitting the subscribe button down below and the notification bell so you get more videos like this popping up in your feed, if that's what you're into. And I'll catch you next time, guys. Keep on chasing the craft. See ya.